I think a common question that many people have whenever they watch a series, especially a long-running one, is this. What was the best episode of this show? With some shows, it's really easy to tell. Sometimes it's a special episode that has an extended runtime and special guests. Other times, it's a normal episode that has the typical runtime, but something about its story or characters make it stand out from the rest. It could be something that reveals a secret side to a major character. It could have a strong emotional core. It could be the funniest episode in the whole series. But, let's be real, most of the time it's usually a finale of some kind.
I had to ask myself this very same question. What is a cartoon's best episode? And despite pondering the answer, I just could not find it. If only there was some tool or database or something like that that could help me find said answer. Yeah, that'll do it.
Yes, so today I have 5 episodes, all from different cartoons, and all of them are the highest rated episodes of their respective shows, at least according to IMDb. I specifically went out of my way to not include shows that the highest rated episodes are just their final episode, because, I mean, come on, that is not fun. So, no Avatar, no BoJack, no Star vs. the Forces of Evil, none of it. And no anime either, I feel like that's a given. But with that said, let's get into it. Up first, we have the amazing world of Gumball, with Season 5's The Choices. At one point, I would have told you that Gumball was a relic from the 2010s that got its finale, but, nope, it's still going. It's a miracle, really. Gumball is highly regarded as one of the funniest shows to come from Cartoon Network, and it's easy to see why. The show is very creative with how experimental the art style is, blending 2D animation, 3D animation, live action, stop motion, pretty much any artistic style and medium you can think of, Gumball has done it at some point in its run. In fact, that's a pretty big part of the marketing for the recent revival, the fact that it's a weird mashup of styles. Hell, it's in the name and the logo too. The unique art style that the show has is a great antithesis to the quality of the show and the emotional beats that some episodes have. The show is funny, some of the funniest television I've seen, but those moments that take things slow and ground things on a deeper level are just incredible, and you won't find it any better than in The Choices. The episode is all about how Nicole met Richard when they were kids, and the alternate futures that would have happened if she had made different choices at this point in her life. Half of the episode is your standard Gumball episode, with the humor that you would expect, but those last 5 minutes are just beautiful, and it brought a tear to my eye when I first watched it. There's no dialogue here, it's just a sweet montage of Nicole and Richard's life as they grow alongside their relationship. It shows when each of the kids are born, and it even ties it into the origins, another episode about Darwin's origins and how he found himself with the Watersons. It's really sweet. Even crazier is the fact that this episode isn't a special in any way. Despite being a typical 11-minute episode, it's able to craft such an emotional story with such a simple question. How did the mom and the dad meet? Riveting, I know. There's so much to unpack in this episode too. It's the first time we see Nicole's parents, and they even show the reason why they don't appear in the show. Nicole had a falling out with her mother and they stopped speaking. The montage is silent, so we don't get to know why they fought, but it's easy to infer that they were probably arguing about Richard himself. They already don't approve of him, but for whatever reason, this argument about him just broke the relationship between Nicole and her parents for years. So much so that they didn't show up to their wedding. There's so much to unpack from this one shot of Nicole walking away from her parents' house, and her dad not even looking back at her. So much is in this one shot. Why JoJo kicked Richard out though is beyond me. Maybe she got tired of his unemployed ass. Get off the couch! The episode has a really touching conclusion with Nicole accepting that even on the rainiest of days with her family driving her nuts, above all, she wouldn't trade her life for anything in the world because she loves her family. The ending of the episode, alongside the greater context of Gumball as a whole, makes it even sweeter. We as the audience know that Richard and Nicole's relationship is dysfunctional. We know that the Watersons barely scrape by, and we know that time and time again, Richard is a man-child who just cannot function as an adult. We are shown in the episode the expectations that are set for Nicole. We see in the futures where she's successful or where she marries rich and that she's well better off there. But the key difference is that with Richard, and in turn her family, it's the only future where she's happy. So, it's the only future that matters to her. It really puts it in perspective perspective. It's honestly a trope at this point for cartoon parents. The dad is bumbling and stupid, and the mom does all the work and has the brains, and their marriage is extremely dysfunctional and unhappy. You see it with Peter and Lois, Timmy's parents from the Fairly Odd Parents. Hell, the whole plot of the Simpsons movie is all about how Homer is a selfish husband and Marge finally leaves his ass. It's such a huge trope, and yet with Gumball, they subvert it in a way by actually affirming that no, Nicole is not miserable here. This was one of her choices, and she made it, and she's happy.
To me, The Choices is absolutely the best representation of Gumball. The episode is funny as hell, the hardest I laughed out of any of the episodes in this video, and it also just did not fail to make me misty even upon rewatch. While there are other episodes in the show that might be a little more exciting, such as The Disaster or The Job, you gotta give it up. Without a doubt in my mind, it absolutely deserves the status as the best episode of Gumball.
Actually, you know what? I wouldn't change a thing.
You probably weren't expecting this one, were you? Next, we have Rick and Morty's The Ricklantis Mixup from Season 3. It has a 9.8 on IMDb, and oh my god, this show is washed. It is actually insane how fast the night changes. Remember when Rick and Morty was at the top of the world? It felt like everyone was obsessed with this show. It felt like it would become the next Family Guy or Simpsons in terms of staying power. It was everywhere on merch, fast food restaurants, everywhere. It even had that huge episode order to get it 10 extra seasons. But now, no one talks about it. Rick and Morty has definitely faded into obscurity a little bit, or at the very least is nowhere near as popular as it once was. What's to blame there? The huge hiatuses between seasons, the controversy with both creators, the decline in quality, the procrastinating with its storyline. There are so many reasons for why Rick and Morty isn't it anymore. Now, when you walk into Spencer's or Hot Topic, you won't see this show, you'll see Smiling Friends. Now, I personally kept up with Rick and Morty up until a little bit through season 6, I believe. I know it was a little bit after they had broken up or something, and evil Morty had finally shown his hand. I don't know. But the point is, I was there when the Ricklantis Mixup dropped. I stuck through this era of the show, and I can attest to the fact that, yeah, this episode is definitely the best. In it, rather than focusing on a standard Rick and Morty adventure, the episode instead shifts focus to the Citadel, a safe haven in the multiverse where the society is entirely comprised of alternate universe versions of the main characters. At the top of the season, our Rick glass floored the place, so I can already see just by the concept alone why this episode would be considered one of the best. A theme this episode shares with The Choices, and by extension the other episodes on this list, is that it does something different compared to a normal episode of the show. This one takes a break from the main characters, at least technically, and puts us in a multi-layered story about the hardships of a caste-based society, and talks about how societal change isn't always what it turns out to be. As stated earlier, this episode released at a time when Rick and Morty was starting to decline in quality. The show had just returned from a multi-year hiatus and was at the peak of its popularity, but the decisions the writers made when it came time to choose what to focus on this season were just not hitting with the fans. At the time, many of the fans jumped on board with the show due to the continuity the show was developing. The story that Rick and Morty was crafting was genuinely interesting, and many people, myself included, wanted to see where it would end up. Unfortunately, the show desperately wanted to distance itself away from serialization, despite it being the hook that kept so many people invested. So the show would have an episode every now and then to cock tease the fanbase with an epic multi-episode arc, only to immediately pull the rug out from under them. This episode was the first of many to do so, but luckily on its own, it's a very well-crafted story. Why does Black Rick have donut lips? Despite every character in this episode being a different version of the same two characters, it manages to deliver a pretty deep story about racism and the flaws of a society driven by the caste system. It makes the ending even more chilled, with the one beacon of hope for change in said society being flipped on its head with the evil Morty reveal. I can definitely see why this episode remains the highest rated. It just stings that it wouldn't be relevant again until multiple seasons later. But at the end of the day, we're focusing on the episodes on their own merit, not whatever impact it would have later on in the show. Is the episode good enough on its own to be considered the best Rick and Morty episode? In a way, yeah. It deserves its spot for sure, but there are other episodes that I would feel comfortable calling the best as well. The episode where we come back to this, Rick Mirai Jack, is another contender for the best episode of the show, I feel, because it not only ties together the storyline for season 5 well, but also returns us to the Citadel in an amazing way and delivers an insane cliffhanger that also doesn't end up mattering all that much. Do you see why I fell off of this show? There's also the Vat of Acid episode, which was a really great one-off that really dives into Rick and Morty's relationship. The Rick Shank Redemption, the opener for season 3, would be my top replacement, with how much of a pure, cold open it was for the season. Compared to a lot of the contenders I've named, and even compared to the Ricklantis Mixup itself, everything just flows well in this episode, and there's a lot of great action, which is what I personally come to Rick and Morty for. Keep in mind that past the middle of season 6, I have not kept up with the show, so I definitely can't say if there were any peak episodes in there. But from what I've heard, the show has started to pick up again, and has finally started to find its footing in what story it wants to tell. Shit only took 10 years.
Now is the time for action.
Next, we're gonna talk about Spingle Knob Shared Ranch. The highest rated episode of SpongeBob is, of course, Season 2's Band Geeks. Squidward's old rival Squilliam comes to town and makes our cephalopod friend jealous with his success in orchestra and marching band. To prove himself, Squidward declares that he has his own marching band, so he has to scramble to put something together before they have to perform at the Bubble Bowl. This one's a classic. I feel like I don't even have to explain it, because seriously, if you have not seen Band Geeks, what are you even doing here? It's common knowledge that those first 3 seasons of SpongeBob are of a different quality compared to the rest of the show, due to a lot of restructuring in the team after that first movie. Greatest movie of all time, by the way. We're not here to get into the show's quality in present day. The point is, that original run was golden, and to have an episode stand out as the best during that run has to make that episode special. And like I said in the last segment, there's going to be a common theme that runs between all of these episodes, and there's a very clear reason why this one is considered the top of its class. It's just because it shakes things up. Squidward, throughout the original run of the show, is just considered a loser. It's not like later on where he becomes cartoonishly evil in some episodes and suffers cruel and unusual torture in others. He works at the Krusty Krab just like SpongeBob, but unlike Bob, he's a lot more grounded, realistic. Squidward has the aura of an adult who went to art school, got the degree, and then just spent the rest of his life in customer service, despite any dreams he had or any expectations that were set on him. Squidward is, and always has been, the antithesis to SpongeBob. In a way, he's the Tom to Bob's Jerry, the Coyote to Bob's Roadrunner. He's not meant to win, or be happy, because that's just what the show demands. But every now and then, there are those golden moments where Squidward does get what he wants. He does get the win, and this is absolutely the most iconic of those fleeting moments. I think that is the reason this episode is seen as the best. That sweet victory performance at the end probably shook the minds of the kids who watched it. This is the one time that the whole world is backing Squidward up, and he gets rewarded for his efforts. He gets to give that man Squilliam a heart attack. He gets to rock out with the people of Bikini Bottom. He won! And because a character that always loses actually got to win, I imagine that's the reason this episode sticks with people. And it's funny as hell. Just joke after joke. This show is so fucking funny. There just isn't a lot to say with this one, because honestly, like I said at the top, if you haven't seen Band Geeks, what's wrong with you? And if you've already seen Band Geeks, then you already know what's up with this one. It's one of, if not the first episode in the show to unite the entire main cast and have an ensemble story. And at the time, it was absolutely a big deal. Past this episode, they do stuff like this all the time, but that doesn't make this one any less special for it. Now, that begs the question once more. Do I agree with listing Band Geeks as the best episode of SpongeBob? The fuck do I look like?
Don't ask me again!
Of course Band Geeks is the best. I am one of the kids I was just talking about, whose mind was blown by Squidward getting the win. The thing is though, Golden Era SpongeBob has so many episodes that could be considered the best, and they're all of such similar quality that I don't think anyone would look at you crazy if you said Chocolate with Nuts, or Dying for Pie, or Pizza Delivery were their favorite episodes. All of these episodes have something going for it, and to reiterate, they're all funny as hell. Pizza Delivery specifically is another one of those episodes where Squidward wins in a way. He stands up for Bob at the end, and it's one of the few episodes where their relationship actually felt human and progressed a little. Now, I'm not saying that post-movie SpongeBob isn't capable of having episodes like this. I'll be real with you, I haven't watched SpongeBob like that since I was like 12. I've seen clips, and I've seen some of the new movies. It's hard not to see that it's a completely different show now, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's a lot more experimental now. It leans more into slapstick and feels a lot more like a Looney Tunes cartoon. But honestly, as long as that yellow sponge is giving artists jobs, I don't care where they take him. But for Band Geeks, I don't think the show will likely ever surpass this milestone again. It's hard enough as it is to surpass something that does an idea first, but unless the show attempts to replicate that old style of writing again, it just won't ever live up to that legacy. And like I said before, that's not a bad thing. I love all of the experimenting art styles I've seen with the show, and the writers are very clearly content with what it is now. The writers don't want it to just be the old seasons again, because they proved that if they wanted to go back to that old style, they would. They had a whole episode recently that was written and drawn like a season 1 episode, and it was great from what I saw, but it doesn't take away from what they're doing now. What SpongeBob is doing now is for the kids, and what kids like and find entertaining changes over time. What a 6-year-old finds funny today is absolutely not what a 6-year-old would find funny 20 years ago. It's just time, man. And to me, better to shake things up and breathe new life into the show rather than just have it be a hollow, pale imitation of what once was. You can see that with other long-running shows that just don't want to be anything different. So yes, Band Geeks is the best SpongeBob episode, and that likely will remain the case for the rest of its run. But that's okay. It doesn't take away from the heart that was poured into this episode, and it doesn't take away from Squidward's well-deserved sweet victory.
Then I'm sure we could all pull together and discover what it truly means to be in a marching band.
The Frog Show? Shit, I hope you're strapped in then. So, I said at the beginning that we would specifically be leaving out any finales, because those always usually end up at the highest rated on IMDb. But I thought I'd bend the rules a little and make an exception for the Little Frog Show that could. It's not a series finale, only a season finale, so yeah, get ready. True Colors is Amphibia's season 2 finale. It's the culmination of everything the show was building towards up to this point, and expertly sets up the insane endgame the story would enter after this episode. As far as Amphibia is concerned, this episode absolutely came out at the peak of the show's popularity, and spoilers, it is absolutely deserved as the best in the series. The episode's title is such a genius one, True Colors, with it being a double meaning on so many characters showing their true colors here. Sasha and Grime betray the group by starting a hostile takeover of Newtopia. Andreas shows his true colors by dropping the facade of peaceful king once he takes the music box and plans to invade Earth. Marcy shows her by force once it's revealed that she got her, Anne, and Sasha stranded in Amphibia on purpose. Also, she wouldn't have to face her own reality. And it all culminates with Anne showing her true colors in a more literal sense, with her calamity powers activating for the first time. The last half of the episode is probably the best to come out of not only Amphibia, but I think the best of this whole era of serialized cartoons from the 2010s and 2020s. Amphibia is a show that follows a very familiar formula set up by its predecessors. Have a looser season 1 that sets up a grander story by the end. Then, as time goes on, go all in on the serialization. The show famously gets a bad rep with its looser episodes, but at the end of the day, I say it's worth going through them. It's worth it to get connected to this frog family and get attached to them, because it hits even harder when moments like this come through.
That's the thing about friends, isn't it? The more you love them, the more it hurts when they go. Allow me to demonstrate.
True Colors is just full of moments like this. Even in the first half of the episode, while it isn't as exciting as that last half, it's still a pretty good Amphibia romp. Cause come on, how can you hate it when Anne loses her sword but not her hands? It's crazy! Even when the show is at its most serious, it never loses its comedic edge. Polly gets her legs in the middle of all of the action, and it gives the audience like 5 seconds to take a breather and laugh a little. It's crazy, because this moment is sandwiched between this
Oh, look at that!
and this.
That's the thing about friends, isn't it? The more you love them, the more it hurts when they go. Allow me to demonstrate.
But it just works. It works for this show because this is a show of extremes. It's the funniest show ever when it wants to be, and then it will also rip your heart out and make you cry harder than you ever have before when it wants to. Seriously, find out more here. But going back to never losing that comedic edge, we need to talk about Andreas. He's the big twist villain of the episode, and up to this point, he's just a jolly guy. He's bubbly, he's wholesome, and oh no, he's killing a child!
Lens isn't there, rubbing it, that's not.
He's fantastic as a villain because even after the reveal with his turn, he doesn't lose that whimsy. He still quips, he still laughs, and he still has a good time. It's just so much more sinister now because his true intentions have been revealed. And it's even more chilling because even though he was lying through his teeth throughout the whole season, we still met the real him. I think that's what's scariest about him because this laughy jolly guy is capable of being the most intimidating force in this video. Seriously, look at this shot right here and tell me this isn't the rawest thing you've ever seen. He's fantastic. There's so much to say about True Colors. Like I said, it very obviously deserves the top spot in Amphibia. I haven't even talked about the emotional core of the episode and Marcy. It's definitely the most heartbreaking thing, learning how things ended up the way they did. That breakdown in the middle of the episode is just gut-wrenching to watch, with one of the best lines in any of these episodes. It's very simple, but it is very effective in showing Marcy as a character. Desperately trying to prove that she's in the right with her choices, she says to Anne, "Look at Sprig, I gave you this, I gave you everything." Marcy's voice actor does such a great job in this episode, and her fate at the end is just the cherry on top of it all. It's just too bad that they had to show their hand for some reason. For whatever reason, Disney pulled this episode and would not let it air unless the team scrambled together a warning at the beginning of the episode and shoved the season 3 opener at the very end. Man, could you get more soft, Disney? It's like Disney had to spoon feed these kids. Don't worry, the frogs are gonna be okay. They're just gonna go on some cool adventures, and Marcy is still alive. All is good. Man, get out of here. Whatever happened to tension? It's just so confusing too, because Gravity Falls didn't have this issue. Its sister show, The Owl House, didn't have this issue with Disney. Even though it had the exact same plot beat for its season 2 finale, it aired no problem. And Owl House just famously never had any bad blood with Disney. Oh. It's just ridiculous how poorly this episode was treated, and now its official release is forever tainted by these warnings. In a way, it takes from the experience, especially with it warning you straight up that, yeah, things are gonna get a little crazy in the last half. That's just so insulting. Again, I have to stress, no other Disney cartoon has ever had this problem. Shit, no other cartoon in general has ever had this with their story. Whether they have twist villains or character deaths, kids can handle it. So, final point, True Colors, best Amphibia episode, hands down. Let's move on to the next.
He's my best friend, in this world or any other world.
In similar fashion, we have Gravity Falls' Not What He Seems, with a 9.8 on IMDb. Unlike Amphibia, Gravity Falls gets its flowers for being one of the greats, and it is absolutely well deserved. Not What He Seems is the episode of Gravity Falls where the whole status quo of the show shifts, and the story begins to enter its endgame. When Stan is arrested by the government, Dipper and Mabel vow to find the evidence to get him acquitted, but they end up finding out more about their grunkle than they bargained for. Unlike True Colors, which focused on multiple twists and turns, Not What He Seems focuses on one question, and it's a pretty big one too. Who really is Stan Pines? Throughout the entire show, Stan Pines has had this mysterious aura around him, and it becomes a large focus throughout the second season. What is this portal that he's been building? Why does he want to keep it secret from the twins? Is he evil? What else is he hiding? From the very first episode, the show literally tells you, yeah, this guy is hiding something. And this is where it all comes to a head. And they pull out all the stops for it too. This is literally the episode where gravity falls. How could it not be the best? The visuals are astounding here as well, especially towards the end with the harsh lighting from the portal and the red sky. It's just incredible. It's so heartbreaking to see Dipper, Mabel, and even Seuss begin to lose trust in Stan as they uncover lie after lie, fake identity after fake identity. They don't know what's going on with Stan, but all they know is that the machine he's been building could spell the end of the world. This episode has everything going for it. The jokes are still there, sprinkled within all the action. The drama and the stakes are at an all-time high for the show so far, and the pure mystery that the episode puts us, the audience, through has us at the edge of our seat. We're in the same position as Dipper and Mabel, and although we have the benefit of foresight and know more than they do, we're still left in the dark alongside the twins because we don't know where any of this is headed. And frankly, if we were in their shoes, we probably would have come to the same conclusion as Dipper and Seuss, that Stan might just be the bad guy that everyone says he is, and that the best course of action is to shut down whatever it is he's trying to do. I mean, for crying out loud, the guy has the other two journals. Dipper probably didn't even know that the other two existed, let alone where they would have been this whole time. In season 1, when Gideon tries to pry the information out of him, Dipper just has no fucking idea what he's talking about. So for all he knows, Stan just had both the entire time. My point is, we would likely make the same choice as Dipper here, but for me, the genius of this episode all comes down to Mabel at the very end. This scene where Stan is pleading to her as the light and power from the portal consumes the family, and Mabel letting go and trusting him? Probably the biggest twist in the whole episode. The fact that Mabel gives in, despite the whole world, possibly the whole universe being at risk here, despite the fact that she has absolutely no idea what Stan is even planning, the fact that she gives in to the trust that she's built with him throughout the whole series up to this point is just beautiful. Generational shot here, by the way. And, of course, when I say that's the biggest twist in the episode, I really meant up to that point, because I feel like there's no other way to justify not what he seems being the best episode of Gravity Falls other than the moment that changes everything.
The author of the journals. My brother.
The best doesn't necessarily mean the perfect or the flawless. It doesn't even usually mean the most iconic. To me, I think the best episode of any show would have to be the best representation of said series. It has to have the best components of the show's heart, humor, drama, action, and character. It doesn't necessarily have to be the beginning or the end. It doesn't even have to be a huge game changer for the entire series. A cartoon's best episode, in the end, would be the episode that leaves the biggest impression on you and leaves you wanting more. And yes, the opposite is true as well. Seriously, what were they thinking?